This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, April 2nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. A high of 47. No, that's not right. It's 67. Tonight and overnight, we could see some rain, low 42. And then Thursday, showers in the morning, clouds in the afternoon. It's going to be warm, high 71. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 37 partly cloudy in Huntington out on Long Island. 36 partly cloudy in Colts Neck over in New Jersey. And it is 38 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Will it be Liberation Day for all of us? Senator Cory Booker spoke, and then he spoke some more. We get to see the inside of a house of horrors in Connecticut. Where are all the cats that were inside that Long Island sanctuary? And the hottest drink in New York today is Pickle lemonade. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. The White House says President Trump will announce reciprocal tariffs today. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says it'll be one of the most important days in modern American history.
Our country has been one of the most open economies in the world, and we have the consumer base hands down, the best consumer base. But too many foreign countries have their markets closed to our exports.
Now, President Trump has called today, April 2nd, Liberation Day. Leavitt, there is the, of course, White House spokesman, says companies will have to pay tariffs if they make their product in the U.S. The president expecting $5 trillion in U.S. investments after the tariffs take effect.
The lack of reciprocity contributes to our large and persistent annual trade deficit that's gutted our industries and hollowed out key workforces. Those days of America, beginning tomorrow, being ripped off are over. American workers and businesses will be put first under President Trump.
Okay, so the truth is we don't really know what's going to happen today in terms of how it'll affect the economy. Of course, the economists come out from everywhere, and you have to know they all have their own political slant about how they view this thing. One of them is Alan Jin. He is the associate professor, University of San Diego, and he thinks the tariffs will raise prices on things we're buying. Okay.
A tariff is a tax on imports. So importers will pay that tax, and they'll likely try to pass that on to consumers.
Now, the president, of course, anticipating $5 trillion in U.S. investments after these tariffs take effect. Correspondent Garrett Haig has more.
Trump expected to unveil a package of, quote, reciprocal tariffs on allies and adversaries alike worldwide, but keeping the specifics under wraps, with a Rose Garden rollout planned for Wednesday. The uncertainty leaving businesses and buyers of everything from pharmaceuticals to food to computer chips guessing.
The tariffs expected to largely be aimed at cars and car parts manufactured out of the U.S.
Goldman Sachs estimates the tariffs could add $5,000 to $15,000 to the price tag of foreign-made cars, and $3,000 to $8,000 on cars made in the U.S. because of the tax on parts.
Now, American auto workers, a lot of them say they like this idea because they think more Americans will buy more American cars.
We've pretty much gave it away to every country but ourselves. So, yeah, I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, that's auto worker James Benson out in Detroit. Most Western European nations support their continent's intent to respond to these tariffs this week.
A new YouGov Eurotrack poll found that the majority of citizens in 7 countries in the region are in favor of imposing retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Danes were the most supportive at nearly 8 in 10 supporting them. The tariff announcement is set to happen tomorrow afternoon. I'm Brian Shook.
I think he means this afternoon. Let's go down to Florida, where there was an important congressional race, 2 seats open. The balance of power, Republicans have it, of course, in Congress, but it is not a wide margin. So they really wanted to pad it all with these 2 wins in Florida last night. It was 2 Republicans who left these seats. They wanted to replace them with 2 Republicans, and they got their wish. Republican Jimmy Patronis, the winner in Florida's 4th congressional district. He was the state's chief financial officer. Now he's going to Washington.
Let it be known that this election is a reminder that Florida Panhandle will forever be red, and it'll be forever Trump country.
Now, where these 2 races were, there were Republicans in office before. There were places where the president did well in the November election.
And with such a slim majority, we're going to have some tough battles. It is not going to be easy. So rather than, seeing a bunch of members giving fake speeches to an empty chamber, I say we let President Trump get up and running and support his agenda and fix this country.
Of course, the president will be happy to hear that. Randy Fine, the other Republican winning down in Florida, beating out the 6th district race over Democrat Josh Wheel.
I'm going to work just as hard for everybody. I'm going to represent these 6 counties just like I have for 8.5 years in the legislature.
So they get to hold on to those 2 seats in Washington. Republicans do. Not so good for the Republicans in Wisconsin. Democratic-backed Dane County Judge Susan Crawford, the winner of an open seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Now, this race, which is just remarkable, $100 million invested in a Wisconsin race.
And I'm here tonight because I've spent my life fighting to do what's right. That's why I got into this race. To protect the fundamental rights and freedoms of all Wisconsinites.
Yes. So Crawford defeated Republican-backed former Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimmel.
And Wisconsins stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Our courts are not for sale.
So it was interesting when you hear from the voters in both of these races, what they had to say. Were they thinking about President Trump when they were making their vote? Were they thinking about local issues?
Democrats have gone ahead of us with mail-in ballots and whatnot. So by being out here, especially for a special election, we can try to get our guy, Randy Fine, in. We lost a really good guy, and we're trying to put another good guy in his place right now.
Yeah, so one Florida voter talking about the issues important to him.
I think we need to have a lot more intention on taking care of our elderly.
Okay, and then in Wisconsin, you had the Democrats, where they won last night, backing Judge Susan Crawford, talking about why they came out.
I don't like the idea of a billionaire buying a judge.
We really got to express votes aren't for sale.
Yeah, they're talking about Elon Musk, who was very intimately involved in that race in Wisconsin. WABC News Time 509 woke up to this story this morning. Actor Val Kilmer passing away, 65 years old. Kilmer's daughter telling the New York Times this morning that the cause was pneumonia. Kilmer's career started back in the 1980s when he appeared in films such as Top Gun. He was in Willow. And then, of course, he had that breakout performance as Jim Morrison in The Doors back in 1991. That led to a lot of other lead roles in the 90s, Tombstone, Heat. He took on that role of Batman in 1995, Batman Forever. The actor had been battling throat cancer for several years, with his final film role coming, it was already 3 years ago, in 2022, in the Top Gun sequel, where he reprised his role as Iceman. Sad to see, way too young to be dying at 65, actor Val Kilmer. 509. The leader of the Republicans, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, being asked yesterday about President Trump's comments that he would like to run for a 3rd term. Now, yesterday, the White House was doubling down, saying that the president was serious about this, saying if he could run for a 3rd term. Here was Mike Johnson talking about this yesterday.
But I think he recognizes the constitutional limitations, and I'm not sure that there's a move about to amend the Constitution.
So Trump has said there are methods for making it happen, but there's a long way to go. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying the Constitution would have to be amended, and he says that's an incredibly high bar.
There's a constitutional path. You have to amend the Constitution to do it, and that's a high bar. We take him at his word. I understand why so many Americans do wish that he could run for a 3rd term, because he's accomplishing so much in this first 100 days that they wish it could go on for much longer.
WABC News Time 510, a California soldier among the dead after a military vehicle was found in the mud in Lithuania.
The body of Sergeant Edvin F. Franco has been pulled from the wreckage. Army officials say the 25-year-old from Glendale was part of the 3rd Infantry Division that possibly lost control of a tank that fell into a hole filled with thick, muddy water this week. 3 other U.S. soldiers were with Franco when the crash happened, and they also died. I'm Jason Campidonia.
WABC News Time 5:11. Let's go overseas where the death toll continues to rise. More than 2,700 after that magnitude 7.7 earthquake that rocked Myanmar, other parts of Southeast Asia last Friday. Correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer reports the rescue efforts are continuing in Myanmar, where a woman was actually pulled out alive after spending 98 hours under debris.
That golden window of time that rescuers talk about, that 72-hour mark, that has now passed. And while officials here say they'll continue to dig for the dozens of construction workers who are trapped in the rubble here, nobody has been pulled out alive.
Now, if you don't know much about Myanmar, here's the deal. There's been a civil war that seems to be going on forever. It's an incredibly poor country, so they're asking for medical services, shelter, food to be brought in. They need help with shelter. As this civil war is in the middle of a ceasefire, a temporary one at that, so they can get the help in to the people who need it.
Survivors are being found in the city of Mandalay, near the epicenter of the earthquake, including reports of a 68-year-old woman who was freed after 91 hours under the rubble.
You know, there's so much bad going on in the world, but it is nice to see these moments, like in a place like Myanmar, where people from all over the world who may have a lot of issues with Myanmar, these first responders showing up to see if they can help.
The U.S. is giving $2 million and sending a team of 3 people from USAID, which pales in comparison with how the agency might have scaled up in the past. But the State Department says that success isn't always measured by physically being somewhere.
Now, there is some thought they could still find survivors. Here we are. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Here we are, 5 days past. So also the effort is just figuring out how to get rid of the debris and then help some of these people who've lost their homes rebuild.
The next looming disaster in Myanmar is a humanitarian crisis, as the need is just so vast. Water, food, shelter, medical supplies, mental health support, all are in desperate need.
Yeah, so the powerful quake, of course, caused major damage, including the total collapse. No doubt you saw the video of that skyscraper in Thailand, which is hundreds of miles away, come tumbling down. A number of workers were killed in that as well. And, of course, we'll continue to follow the story where they think that death toll will continue to rise in the coming days. 5:13, let's bring it back home. Go out to California, where lawmakers have rejected 2 legislative bills that are aimed at banning transgender athletes from competing in girls' and women's sports.
Our young women are being forced to undress in locker rooms with boys. It's an absurd result of flawed policy. And so we've come here to say we need to fix that policy.
Now, one bill would have stopped athletes assigned male at birth from joining interscholastic girls' teams, while the other would have reversed a law allowing transgender athletes to take part in female sports from elementary school to college age. Now, the interesting part about this is the vote was on strictly party lines, which is what was expected. But Gavin Newsom, the governor, who's, of course, a Democrat, had said that he was in favor of this bill, where that basically banning transgender athletes. So, but he hasn't really spoke out about it since. And so Democrats went against this bill.
He brags all the time about how he can jam the legislature, right, to raise our gas prices, to raise our energy prices. He's done that in the past. If this was a real priority for him, fairness for young women in this state, you think he might have been here. You think he might have made some calls.
Assembly members say all high school athletic females deserve a safe space, and they say that's totally what this bill's about.
In no way do we talk about banning or any hateful rhetoric. So to be called a Nazi, to say that we're up here a bunch of Nazis, shame on the Democrats in committee today.
Okay, so you heard from all the Republicans. Here's what the Democrats had to say about this bill.
The Republican caucus, we do not want to do that, and we will fight every single day to affirm and protect the rights of all Californians, our transgender community members, as well as our girls.
Yeah, so that bill goes down to defeat. 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Hump Day. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Hump Day. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We'll start here with baseball out in Miami, where the Mets fell 4-2 to the Marlins despite only yielding 3 hits as a pitching staff. Mets star shortstop Francisco Lindor returned after sitting out Monday following the birth of his son and had an RBI single, but also made 2 fielding errors. New York reduced the deficit when Brandon Nimmo homered for the second consecutive day to lead off the second before Lindor snapped an 0-for-12 slump to start the season with that RBI single in the third that tied it 2-all. The Mets threatened again in the ninth, but Miami's Anthony Bender retired Mark Vientos and Jesse Winker with 2 on for his first save this season. Up next for the Mets, the rubber game and finale of this 3-game set in Miami, scheduled for a 4:40 p.m. first pitch this afternoon with Clay Holmes set to start for New York. As for the Yankees at home in the Bronx, they dropped a tight one against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The final score 7-5. Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe hit solo homers off Burns, Corbin Burns that is, for the Yankees, who scored 36 runs in their 3-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers last weekend. The Yankees' 17 home runs breaks a MLB record for most through a team's first 4 games, beating the 2006 Tigers in their 16. New York took a 4-2 lead on a 2-run throwing error by Josh Naylor at first. Starter Will Warren allowed 2 runs and 1 hit in 5 innings in his 6th career start. The right-hander walked 4 and struck out 4, including Carroll twice. Up next for the Yanks, the Southpaw Carlos Rodon will take the hill in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series against Arizona. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. To the NBA and the Garden, OG Anunoby scored 27 points, and the Knicks beat Philadelphia 105-91, setting the 76ers their 9th straight loss. Landry Shamet added a season-high 20 points with 6 3-pointers for the Knicks, who won their 3rd straight. Mitchell Robinson had 14 points and 14 rebounds on his 27th birthday and his 2nd start of the season. And with the Knicks looking sloppy with all-star Jalen Brunson and his 2 backup point guards sidelined, and Karl Anthony Towns sitting out with left knee soreness, Anunoby picked up the slack and route to the victory. Looking ahead to local NBA action tonight, the Knicks are right back at it in Cleveland, visiting the Eastern Conference leading Cavaliers. Tip-off there is scheduled for 7 p.m. And lastly, here in Elmont, the Islanders fell 4-1 to the visiting Tampa Bay Lightning. But Horvat scored a shorthanded goal for New York, and Sorokin made 19 saves as the Isles lost their 6th straight, further diminishing their now slim playoff hopes. Sorokin has started 4 of those 6 losses, allowing 14 goals during that stretch. Tonight on the ice locally, the Rangers will host the Minnesota Wild for a 7 p.m. puck drop. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 520. Let's go down to D.C. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facing a lawsuit now for what they call an administrative error. However, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says they stand by Kilmer Amaredo Abrego Garcia's deportation. There's some thoughts they deported the wrong individual.
The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang.
Now, Abrego Garcia was sent to a prison in El Salvador due to what his lawyers say is a mistake from ICE. Attorneys filing a lawsuit on behalf of this man who's requesting to return to the U.S. The filing states he has no affiliation with any criminal or street gangs, and the government has produced no evidence to support their accusation.
We also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. In fact, number 3, this individual was a member, actually a leader, of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization.
So not clear if he's going to ever make his way back to the U.S. Abrego Garcia has a U.S. citizen wife and a 5-year-old child. 521 was watching video of this morning. Thankfully, nobody seriously hurt, but a wild truck crash in Boston yesterday. At a moment, they thought maybe it was a terror attack. 6 people injured when this box truck crashed into a sidewalk in Chinatown neighborhood. This woman saw it all unfold.
Oh my God, and my first thought was, is everyone okay? Like, are they alive and stuff like that? Like, just people laying down, some people running over to see if everyone was okay and stuff like that.
Police think this was just a tragic accident. 4 people taken to the hospital, 2 others treated at the scene. In just a wild video of this truck just, for whatever reason, mounting the sidewalk.
Currently, our preliminary investigation seems to indicate that this seems to be more of a tragic accident than anything else. However, it's still under investigation.
Yeah, 522, we go from Boston out to California. Many homeowners in California worried as home insurance premiums have just gone up. They've skyrocketed, especially since the wildfires, the higher rates making it difficult for people to buy a new home.
Insurance
premiums have been rising. And that's one of the concerns that I think moving forward, some people have to, home buyers have to take into consideration.
That's Oscar Way with the California Association of Realtors. A recent lending tree survey found that about 25% of homeowners across the U.S. have been dropped by their insurer. Half of those surveyed are concerned, of course, about losing their current coverage, and almost half are struggling to even find new insurance. California, though, it's a whole lot worse there. And when you see how things and how expensive it is, I mean, it is a beautiful state. No two ways about it. It's a really nice place, but it's an incredibly expensive place to live. The average price of a gallon of gas in California today in Los Angeles County is $5. $5. So we have it pretty good here.
The average price of a gallon of self-serve regular is up more than 2 cents today to just under $4.82. It's the ninth increase in 10 days. The per gallon price has risen 16 cents over the past 10 days. In Orange County, the average price is up for the sixth straight day to just over $4.79. It's nearly 19 cents more than a week ago in the OC. I'm Jim Roop.
And if that's not enough for California, this 15-year-old girl recovering after she was attacked by an aggressive sea lion in the ocean in Southern California. This is one of a number of attacks from sea lions over the last couple weeks.
Out of nowhere, I feel something biting and grabbing my arm over and over again. I see just like the shadow of it. I'm like, I have no idea what it is. And all I'm thinking is, please don't be a shark. Please don't take off my arm and please don't kill me.
Yeah, so that is Phoebe Beltran. The sea lion bit Beltran's arm. This was over the weekend while she was at the beach to compete with her swim test for the cadet lifeguard program. She suffered several bites, scratches on her arm and her hand, is bruised and swollen, rescued by lifeguards when they realized what was going on.
I saw something come up like a fin and somebody yelled shark, and we all rushed to the shore. And when I realized it was my daughter, that's when I broke down.
Yeah, Beltran's mom says it could have been a whole lot worse.
It's just a scary thought that she could have got pulled under and then not knowing what's happening out there. So when I saw her coming and her arm was all bloody, I thought the worst.
So sea lions along Southern California coast have been showing signs of more aggression lately, and they're worried about whether they're ingesting toxic algae that is making them aggressive. They're not 100% sure, but there was another attack just last week. A man who was out surfing was bitten as well. Some lawmakers are rallying for whole milk in schools.
A requirement was instituted during the Obama administration for skim and low-fat milk in schools to cut kids consuming saturated fat, which can increase risk of heart disease and obesity. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. called the low-fat milk guideline antiquated. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman is co-leading the legislation. I'm Brian Shook.
When was the last time you had a glass of whole milk? Oh, boy, I think I was a little kid. It's been a while. The Yeti brand of coolers is ruffling a lot of feathers with their decision to cancel an order placed by a woman's nonprofit leadership group, I should say a conservative one. Laura Hussman is with the Claire Booth Luce Center for Conservative Women, and they say they're being discriminated against because they have the word conservative in their title.
This is just an attack on conservative values.
So Yeti is based in Austin, Texas, and they said in a statement they have a policy against creating custom products with political affiliations or associations. But the conservative women say they were never given a reason why their order was canceled, and they wonder if it was something more liberal, they might have gotten what they wanted.
Unfortunately, they don't want to take money from conservatives.
Now, we reached out from Yeti. We did not get a response. 5:26, it's finally spring. And I've seen that the cherry blossoms trees all across Tri-State finally in bloom.
Tens of thousands of cherry trees will be showing off their beautiful pink and white petals in the 5 boroughs. Most cherry trees will be in bloom by mid-April, with some starting sooner. In addition, the location of a tree can dictate when it blooms. In New York City, due to the insulation of buildings and pavement, it's slightly warmer and trees start blooming earlier. The 3 most common types of cherry trees in the city are the Okami, Yoshino, and Kwanzan. Lisa G., 77 WABC Radio.
I have 2 of those trees right in front of my house. One of them is blooming and one's not, but I want them to hold on because the warmer it is, the better the blossom is. So I'm hoping that they don't bloom too fast.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 536. Good morning. It is Wednesday, April 2nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 47. Tonight and overnight, we could see some rain, low 42. And then Thursday, we're going to see showers in the morning, clouds in the afternoon, but it's going to be warm. The high going to be 71. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 37, partly cloudy in Huntington, out on Long Island. It's 36 and partly cloudy in Colts Neck over in New Jersey. And it's 38 and partly cloudy right here in Midtown. We'll start this half hour right up in Waterbury, Connecticut, where newly released photos show a first look inside that house of horrors where that 32-year-old man was allegedly held in a room against his will by his stepmom from the time he was 11 years old until he was found just in February. So these photos released by the prosecutor's office, it shows really just a nasty looking house, like nothing's been done to it in years. It shows rooms that have locks on the outside of them. One of them reportedly the room this 32-year-old was held in for 20 years. Now, the woman's lawyer, the stepmom who allegedly held this boy in that room for so many years, Kimberly Sullivan, says that she and you and I and everybody else has the story wrong. She did no wrong. That's what her lawyer says. Meanwhile, the mayor of Waterbury says there are limits to working this case because it happened so long ago. So there were initially reports that this boy was not showing up at school, and police investigated. But he says now to go back and try to figure out what wrong is not going to be easy.
It's devastating, and we're going to make sure that the systems are working into the future to see what might have happened 20 years ago when this may have been reported.
Yeah, so they did show up at the house, but they didn't find anything, the investigators. So Tracy Vallerin, she's the victim's biological mother who surrendered custody of the boy more than 30 years ago. She, of course, wants that stepmother in prison forever, but, of course, she has the right to a trial. Here's more from the Waterbury mayor.
Well, there's limits, I would think, to what you can do. We can send people out to check and look at it. I don't know what it looked like when the officer walked into the house in 2005, what the child looked like. That's 2 decades ago.
Yeah, so we haven't heard anything about this man's recovery. When they pulled him out of his room back in February, he was 5'9" and weighed 68 pounds. So at some point, I'm sure we will hear from him. His stepmother, Kimberly Sullivan, she's due back in court on April 22nd. WABC News Time 540. Mayor Adams, among those reacting to the DOJ's decision to seek the death penalty for accused United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Adams seems to be for it.
You intentionally went in and you took someone's life. It was a horrific act, and whatever process they put in place, I respect that process.
Attorney General Pam Bondi ordering federal prosecutors now to seek the death penalty. The 26-year-old Ivy League grad allegedly shot and killed Brian Thompson on a Manhattan sidewalk back in December. Bondi called the killing a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked the world. Meanwhile, Mangione's attorneys say the move shows that the Justice Department is moving from dysfunctional to barbaric. 541 up to Harlem, where some tenants of a Harlem building are just fed up and they're fighting back now. They say they've been dealing with a slew of issues that their landlord has failed to address for years. This is a building that's on Nicholas Avenue. They say there's rat infestation, mold, roaches, plumbing leaks, holes in the wall. That's just a few of the things they're dealing with.
The rats are so big. They're big like beavers. They came into his apartment and dragged a chicken off the counter and took it behind the wall.
Roaches apparently have taken covered and over cracked peeling paint. The ceiling above showers completely gone in a number of these apartments. So they started a rent strike. Some of these tenants say they won't pay until the fixes are in. And they're calling on the city, by the way, to come in and help out.
It's horrific. The repairs that they do, the repairs fall apart instantly. We'll call in a complaint today. They will close it out tomorrow morning.
They claim the city has not come to their rescue, and for sure they say the landlord has not either.
We should feel safe in our building. Nobody should be scared to speak out. It's beautiful over here. And it will continue to be beautiful if we upgrade and we make these landlords do what they're supposed to do.
Now, the management company of this building had no comment on that rent strike. Up to the Bronx, police searching for a gunman after a man found shot and killed in a car right near the Bronx Zoo. The bullets flew about 3:30 in the afternoon. This was East 183rd Street and Southern Boulevard, Belmont section of the Bronx. 27-year-old man shot in the torso. He was found shot inside the vehicle. Neighbors heard the gunfire, and they say this happens, of course, way too often.
The person was getting chased from down the block, over here in front of the building, and they shot him right there, a young person, 27 years old. It was shocking. When he died, I was shocked. Like crazy.
It sounds gang-related. A bodega worker says that the shots were fired from two moving vehicles, one of them losing control.
Something's happening about like gang violence or not. I don't even know, but I think probably like gang violence.
Police have released a description of the suspect, and they say they have a photo. So as soon as they do, of course, we'll put it up at WABCRadio.com. 543, a federal judge in New Jersey has retained the case of Columbia University grad Mahmoud Khalil, rejecting the government's request to move the case to Louisiana, where he's being held. In a written decision yesterday, the district judge in Newark said the jurisdiction over the case should remain in New Jersey since Khalil was being held there at the time his lawyers filed the petition. The judge described the government's argument otherwise as unpersuasive. Here is one of Mahmoud Khalil's lawyers.
Everything that's critical to this case happened here. Really, the only tie to Louisiana is it's because the government thinks that is a better venue for them.
Khalil's wife, Dr. Noor Abdallah, said in a statement that she's relieved by the court's decision to keep her husband's case in New Jersey. 544, the leading candidates for mayor here in the city, they all say they have a plan to fight a rise in anti-Semitism. 1 in 10 New Yorkers is Jewish, making it the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. Former Governor Cuomo talking about anti-Semitism at a congregation on the Upper West Side. He said he confesses that the persistence of anti-Semitism in New York has kind of shocked him.
I'm sorry for the mistaken assumption that I made that widespread anti-Semitism could never happen again.
So the former governor pledging to make Israel studies part of childhood education. He said he would also push to pass a mask ban across the city if he's elected mayor.
Dressing up as Hamas terrorists to demonstrate, bringing back the pain and the fear of October 7th is cruel.
In his speech, by the way, to the synagogue, Cuomo called out his closest rival in the race, who, by the way, is not Mayor Adams, but Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. He called him a radical left socialist. Mamdani didn't like that much, and he said he would protect Jews as well.
A core focus of that would be addressing the rise in hate crimes, and our plan proposes a more than 800% increase in funding.
Yeah, so he says that funding would help educate people. The West Side Synagogue, by the way, says it's invited all of the mayoral candidates to speak before them. In a moment, we'll hear from another one, Brad Lander. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the Diamond out in Miami. The Mets fell 4-2 to the Marlins, despite only yielding 3 hits as a pitching staff. Mets star shortstop Frankie Lindor returned after sitting out Monday following the birth of his son. He had an RBI single, but he also made 2 fielding errors. New York reduced the deficit when Brendan Nimmo homered for the second consecutive day to lead off the second, before Lindor snapped an 0-for-12 slump to start the season with that RBI single in the third that tied it 2-2. The Mets threatened again in the ninth, but Miami's Anthony Bender retired Mark Vientos and Jesse Winker with 2 on for his first save this season. Up next for the Mets, the rubber game and finale of this 3-game set in Miami, scheduled for a 4:40 p.m. first pitch this afternoon. Clay Holmes set to start for New York. As for the Yankees at home in the Bronx, they dropped a tight one against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Final score 7-5. Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe hit solo homers off Corbin Burns for the Yankees, who scored 36 runs in their 3-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers last weekend. The Yankees' 17 home runs breaks a MLB record for most through a team's first 4 games, beating the 2006 Tigers in their 16. New York took a 4-2 lead on a 2-run throwing error by Naylor at first. Starter Will Warren allowed 2 runs and 1 hit in 5 innings. In his 6th career start, the right-hander walked 4 and struck out 4, including Carroll twice. Up next for the Yanks, the southpaw Carlos Rodon will take the hill in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series against Arizona. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. At the Garden here at the NBA, OG Anunoby scored 27 points, and the Knicks beat Philadelphia 105-91, sending the 76ers to their 9th straight loss. Landry Shamet added a season-high 20 points with 6 3-pointers for the Knicks, who won their 3rd straight. Mitchell Robinson had 14 points and 14 rebounds on his 27th birthday in his 2nd start of the season. And with the Knicks looking sloppy with all-star Jalen Brunson and his 2 backup point guards sidelined, Karl Anthony Towns sitting out with left knee soreness, and Anunoby had to pick up the slack en route to the victory. Looking ahead to local NBA action tonight, the Knicks are right back to it in Cleveland, visiting the Eastern Conference leading Cavaliers. Tip-off there is scheduled for 7 p.m. And lastly here to the NHL. In Elmont, the Islanders fell 4-1 to the visiting Tampa Bay Lightning. Bo Horvat scored a shorthanded goal for New York, and Sorokin made 19 saves as the Isles lost their 6th straight, further diminishing their now slim playoff hopes. Tonight on the ice locally, the Rangers will host the Minnesota Wild for a 7 p.m. puck drop. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time, 5:50. Let's go out to Long Island. Hundreds of cats remain unaccounted for in that deadly fire at the Happy Cat Sanctuary. The sanctuary's founder, Chris Arsenault, died trying to put out the fire in his Medford home, which he shared with 300 cats. So 108 cats have passed away. The ones that they were able to recover that did not are being checked out by a vet, but there's still a fair amount of these cats that are still missing today.
We have just been overwhelmed with just the amazing human beings here on Long Island that have just donated their time, their money.
Yeah, all kinds of people have come out to help with these cats. Some of the cats in need of emergency care have been brought to the Veterinary Medical Center of Long Island, where they're being checked out.
Chris died saving animals, and that's what he loved to do. So I'm trying to honor him and do the best I can to make sure his animals are safe.
Yeah, so Chris Arsenault was lovingly called the Long Island Cat Man, was building a new elaborate sanctuary upstate. Still not clear what started that fire. A puppy who was left tied to a pole in the Belmont section of the Bronx is now looking for a new home. This is getting a ton of stuff online. People want to know who would be sick enough to take a young dog and tie it up to a pole. This was on Belmont Avenue. Jennifer Rodriguez found the dog.
She was very scared, frightened, growling a lot, and just terrified. I don't understand how people can get pets and just abandon them.
Yeah, it is a great question. I mean, if you have one and then you don't want it, there's so many places you could drop a dog off. So she brought this pooch to the vet. Apparently, the dog's okay. They looked to see if there was some chip. There was no microchip with information to track down the owners. So she and others have this warning. They say, look, if you have a pet and you can't take care of it, we will.
You have a lot of options of where to drop the dog. Do not leave it in the street. If you leave it in the street, it doesn't have a chance at all.
Yeah. 5:52. Out to Brooklyn, a subway conductor punched in the face, robbed while working a northbound F train. Investigators say the attack happened last week, but now they're releasing pictures of this and telling us the details of the attack. 2 individuals forced open the conductor's door, hit this 51-year-old woman in the face. They stole her train keys. The conductor refused medical attention at the scene, but said she was just, terrified when it was taking place. People at the subway and on the subway say this happens all too often.
I mean, I haven't had any issues, but, guy on the train is different from a woman on the train.
It doesn't surprise me because, the police are there, but they're not there on the trains to see exactly what's happening. They're in the station, but not riding on the train.
So cops have cuffed one of the individuals involved in this crime. They're still looking for the second person. Post his picture at WABCRadio.com. 5:53, did you watch any of Senator Cory Booker breaking the record for the longest Senate speech ever, clocking in at just over 25 hours? New Jersey Democrat started his marathon speech on, so it's today's Wednesday, on Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern time in protest of the Trump administration.
If you love your neighbor, if you love this country, show your love. Stop them from doing what they're trying to do.
So he beat, which was the longest speech given on the Senate floor, 24 hours, 18 minutes, by Strom Thurmond back in 1957. Booker was allowed to take extended pauses for questions from fellow Democrats, so they were helping him out. He spoke about why he did it yesterday after it was all over.
They're going to try to push through a bill that's going to gut $880 billion from Medicaid. They're going to try to put forward to a bill that's going to give tax cuts to the wealthiest in our country, disproportionately, trillions of dollars. It's outrageous, and we have got to try to stop them.
While he was giving this post-speech, marathon speech interview yesterday, he said that his smartwatch actually showed some concerning statistics as the speech went on and on and on.
And it gave me nothing on a sleep score because my heart rate was pretty damn high after about 4 or 5 hours, a little bit high. That's concerning. So there are definitely some physical things. I'm feeling it now.
So why did he do it? He says he's trying to rustle up Democrats. They seem leaderless and try to fight back, he says, against the Trump White House. MTA making changes to speed up travel time on Metro North's New Haven line, calling it the Super Express.
MTA Chair Jan O'Lieber says stops have been eliminated in Harlem and train speeds have been raised to up to 88 miles per hour.
Metro North is now faster than the Acela coming from New Haven, not to mention cheaper.
A Metro North ticket on the route is $21 versus $120 on Acela. There will be 3 trains in the morning and 3 in the afternoon rush. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
Over to New Jersey, where they're increasing penalties for organized retail theft. As smash and grab crimes rise across the nation and in New Jersey, the governor, Murphy, says bipartisan legislation would increase financial penalties for retail theft rings along with potential time served.
We are going to protect the safety and financial well-being of our state's business owners, retail workers, and
this
shoppers.
Was one of these bills that everybody could get aboard. Here are some of the lawmakers.
These criminals have targeted New Jersey, and now New Jersey is targeting them.
For the organized crime gang that want to play this game, you're in the wrong place, because we will set your social schedule going forward once you're apprehended.
And the New Jersey Retail Merchant Association, they've been begging for harsher penalties for people who commit crimes like shoplifting in these organized crime shoplifting rings.
This is not about the casual shoplifter stealing a pack of gum. This is about highly professional, highly sophisticated, highly organized criminal enterprises that have been attacking our retailers across the state and in the region as well.
WABC News Time 556-1 with this. A major fast food company is introducing Pickle lemonade. Ugh.
It looks like it's going to be the year of the pickle. The fast food chain Popeyes is introducing 3 pickle-themed items on its menu. One of the items is pickle lemonade. The drink consists of pickle juice blended with lemonade, and it comes either frozen or chilled. It sells for around $3.50. Meantime, the pickle lemonade will have some company. Popeyes is also introducing a pickle-glazed chicken sandwich with a tangy and sweet dill pickle glaze and fried pickles. Lisa G., 77 WABC Radio.
American Giant makes great clothing, sweatshirts, jeans, and more right here in the U.S. Visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, code STAPLE20.